Rule for negative integer exponents. And with my students, I like to start with something called a number string. This right here is a number string. So let's talk. 3 raised to the third power. I'd ask my students, well, what is 3 to the third? And they might say, well, 3 to the third is 3 times 3 times 3, which is 27. 3 to the second. Well, what's 3 to the second or 3 squared? Well, 3 times 3, which is 9. 3 to the first is 3. I'd ask my students, well, kind of what do you see is happening? We're getting to 3 to the 0th. And before we know if they know 3 to the 0th, awesome, but do they really see and know what's happening? So I might say, well, let's just kind of look here. What's happening? Well, let's see, from 27 to 9, mathematically, what's happening from 27 to 9? And my students might say, oh, well, I'm dividing by 3. I say, well, that's awesome. What's happening from 9 to 3? Oh, well, I'm again dividing by 3. So if I'm going from 3 to the first to 3 to the 0th, and my pattern is divide by 3, what is 3 to the 0th? And then my students be able to answer 1. And I'd say, okay, awesome, awesome. That one got a little crazy there, huh? Well, let's keep going then with this idea of dividing by 3. Okay, well, if I'm going from 3 to the 0th to 3 to the negative first, what could that be? If I follow my pattern, what would it be? And I've had students come up with really crazy guesses. I shouldn't say crazy. I've had my students come up with really intelligent guesses. -3 often comes up as a guess. Um, just 3 again comes up as a guess, right? So these are some of their guesses. But if we follow our pattern, we're going to divide by 3 and we get 1/3. Oh, that's interesting. Okay, well, can we keep following our pattern? What is 3 to the negative second? And we'd have to say, oh, well, we would take 1/3 and divide it by 3. Oh, that's sometimes hard. So let me just draw what that looks like over here. Okay, if here is my chocolate bar and I'm going to divide this into about thirds. Okay, I can call that about thirds. There, a little bit better chocolate bar. Well, I need to divide that in 3 now. So let me divide each of those into 3. So what is 1/3 divided by 3? Oh, it's 1/9. Okay, we can see now that we've made 9 little pieces. So 1/3 divided by 3 is 1/9. And then 3 to the negative third, well, that's if I have to divide all of this again into 3s, which I could. There's 3s, there's 3s, and there's 3s. I get down to 1/27th. Okay. Well, I would have students kind of look at it and notice and wonder, how does 3 to the third compare to 3 to the negative third? Same thing, how does 3 squared compare to 3 to the negative second power? 3 to the first with 3 to the negative first, and we realize, oh, it is the reciprocal. Big vocab word there, reciprocal. So with my students, we would talk about this idea of reciprocal, and I would help them generate the rule. What is the rule for negative exponents? Well, we can generally come up with a rule. I'll call x my base. If x is raised to the negative a power, then I know that is the same as taking the reciprocal, 1/x, to the positive a power. So what does that mean if I had an example? Well, let's say I had 2 to the negative third power. That would be the same as 1/2 to the third power, which is also 1/8. Now, a misconception students have might be, well, what if I have 3/5 raised to the -2 power? Ooh, well, that's interesting. We would have to use some of our power to a power rules and rewrite this as, well, I would then have like 3 to the -2 over 5 to the -2. Ooh, this is juicy. Well, I know that when I have 3 to the -2, I am going to rewrite that as 1 over 3 squared. But all of that is being divided by 1 over 5 squared. So I would have 1/9 all divided by 1/25. If we know how to simplify fractions, I'm going to multiply 1/25. I need to multiply numerator and denominator by the reciprocal. But if I do that in the denominator, I have to do that in the numerator. So 1/25 times 25 over 1 is 1. And in the numerator here, I would get 25 over 9, all divided by 1, which is the same as 25/9. So another way that we can say 3/5 to the -2 power could also be by taking the reciprocal initially and saying that is the same as 5/3 to the +2 power. Or I see that my 5 to the -2 will come up to the numerator, and 3 to the -2 will move to the denominator. All really important things to know when looking at negative integer exponents.